back. We're at the World of Wellness. We are live and super excited. This is the Wine of Wellness Week number 98. I'm your host, Jamie Dorley, and we have a very special guest on today. She is certified personal trainer, NPC national level competitor, and soon to be IFBB pro fitness and bikini model. So we're so excited to have her on here. She's helped so many people. It looks like she's in the White House today. So welcome back, Billie-Nicole Howie. How we doing?
Excellent. How could I be any better? I'm being treated like VIP right now. You're probably wondering why I had these all.
All we need to do is see a double bicep pose. You got the shirt. Let's see the arms.
Yeah.
The pose.
Coming, right?
Go. Beautiful. And this is perfect
out.
timing because this week is the NPC Teen Collegiate and Masters Nationals. So me and Mia were down there last night, and we saw all the different age groups, and it's really interesting because it ties right into the topic we want to talk about today. Because many times people will say, "Oh, I'm too old," or I haven't worked out long enough, or all these different excuses. So we want to help people at any age realize that they can get in shape. And we have a lot of opportunities this week to come on down to the Wellness Center and participate in the event. And one of the best ways is through our workshops. And we have people from all over the country, including Billie-Nicole today. So hopefully technology is going to work well with us and we'll be able to do this. So, a lot of people that you work with, when they're coming in, do they have experience of working out? Is this something new for them? What type of people are you working with?
I work with a really broad range of individuals, but most of the time it's people who, they tried the gym, they came in, they came out. You know what I mean? It's just constant, like start, stopping. They just, don't know what direction to, don't know how hard to push in the gym, don't know about nutrition. They're just lacking a lot of the other tools to keep consistent. So it's a broad range. At this point, with the state that I think that everything's happened in the last 2 years, it's mostly people that just want to be mindful about and they realize that movement is medicine, and that we need to take charge of our own health, and we need to take the steps to do the things to prepare our bodies for viruses and other things that happen in our environment. And so it seems to me like there's been a shift in a mindset with people that it's no longer about a physical well-being of being fit. It's mentally fit and being more prepared, on a metabolic level for things that might come our way. So and that's kind of what I'm seeing in the gym right now.
Yeah, I think there's always a silver lining in everything, including COVID and everything people have been through. And I think it's the fact that people realize Big Brother is not going to take care of them, right?
Right.
And they can't wait till they get sick. It's too late. They need to take action now, right? And when I was a certified trainer for years, people would come in and some had an athletic background and maybe had gotten off course. Others maybe had never worked out before. So let's take some of the age groups or people that come in to see you, and let's see some of the things that you recommend that they do to get started. So let's take that 40 to 70-year-old, right, that maybe had worked out before, hasn't really got great results. I love when people would come in, they would say, well, I don't want to look like you. I don't want to get too muscular, right? So we'll alleviate you of any concerns of that, because the reason people quit working out is usually because they don't get any results, not too good of results. So when you're starting out with somebody, what are some of the nutritional concepts you're teaching? Because there's no shortage of diets out there, right? And if they worked, we'd only need one of them, right? And I think what happens is people are looking for the shortcut. So what are some of the nutritional components that you and philosophies you recommend for people in those age groups?
Well, keep it simple. Don't over complicate things with, like you said, all these geez, we could sit here and talk for 5 hours about the different diets that are out there. And I think that putting yourself on a diet truly adds a level of pressure to a lifestyle overhaul that you just need to make. I think that people need to make a decision to feed their bodies properly, eat good, wholesome, nutritious foods, take vitamins that are going to augment what we're not getting in our food system anymore. Be consistent with those vitamins and nutrients. And overall, don't be so crazy restrictive. People like me, for an aesthetic environment, competitors, bodybuilders, we need to wear food and be very meticulous about that. But the average person, to make big changes, you just need to kind of keep things simple. Drink enough
So
water.
let's do that. Let's break it down for people. Number one, of course, water, right? So how much
Oh, yeah.
water should somebody be drinking?
That's dependent on a person. With my paramedic background, I'm all about like treating the person and not going based on numbers, right? So when you use the bathroom, if your urine is mostly clear, unless if you're on a women's complete vitamin, it's going to be bright yellow. But it should be mostly clear. You should have just a pale yellow appearance to your urine. It shouldn't be, overly saturated with water. And obviously it shouldn't have a smell or anything like that. And I mean, not to be gross, but, assess those things. If your urine is dark and it stinks, you probably obviously are not getting enough water in. Today in Michigan, it's going to be 90 degrees. So you can bet later today when I'm done working, when I'm out on the water, I'm going to be drinking probably 4 liters of water just to, keep hydrated. So it's dependent on the
Uh,
person.
I like to keep it really simple. There's different formulas people use, but my buddy said it best. He says, if you're not urinating, then you're dehydrated. He says,
Right.
yeah, and he says just drink water all day. Sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less, but don't wait till you're thirsty. It's usually too late, right? And one of the first things we find is that when people think they're hungry, they're really thirsty. When they're
Right.
fatigued, they could be dehydrated, right? When
Right.
they're not feeling their best, dehydration. So make sure you're hydrated on the front end. And like when it's going to be 90, 95 degrees, like it is in the Northeast today in the Midwest, make sure you're drinking water before you go out. Don't wait until it's too late because you may feel more fatigued, more hungry, maybe headaches, those types of things if you're not adequately hydrated. So I like
Yeah.
for people to sip water all day. And you can also get more water when you're doing some of the shakes and those things. And it should be clear. And like you said, if you're taking a good high quality, like the Woman's Complete by Nutritional Frontiers, the metabolic process of the B vitamins, when you absorb them, then you do excrete that color. So it's not as if you're urinating the vitamin out. It's a byproduct of B vitamin metabolism. So it's actually normal. But yeah, the thing is the smell, of course, the frequency, all important things. So water, I
Right.
think most people get a good grasp on. I always say to cut back on the coffee, especially in the summertime, and the caffeine. And of course, if you're drinking alcohol, you should alternate one drink with a bottle of water, just to balance it
Yeah.
out, because sometimes you can consume too much, which is going to dehydrate you also. All right, so the
Right.
water component. What about the food? Because what's simple for you as a certified trainer is not simple for my neighbor, right?
You're
She's going
right.
to
You're
say, what
right.
does that mean? What kind of food? Is it
Well,
keto? Is it paleo? Is it Atkins? Is it, fat free? So, what are some simple concepts for food that people can learn about today and incorporate with their lifestyle today?
yeah, I am going to make it really say it's just like, we all grow up with this, well, at least in my age group, you pretty much eat 3 squares a day. I happen to be on a military installation right now, so that's a lingo. You eat 3 squares a day. Eat breakfast, eat lunch, and eat dinner. And what that is all made up of is, again, it's dependent on the person, the person's palate, what you feel you need. I find that when people do the fasting, and that's a whole nother topic, but when they wait until much later in the day to eat, then they're already behind the 8 ball. and they're chasing a caloric deficit. And then the next thing you know, we go out at 9 o'clock at night and then that hammering, 800 calories of God knows what because you're hungry. And then day after day after day, they're doing that. They're stalling their metabolism out. Your brain is not operating at its highest capacity because you're depleted. And there's just a lot of negative side effects to just piling all your food into one feeding window. So I think the basic concept is honestly just eat in the morning, eat in the afternoon, and eat in the evening. And then once you get that down, you can start to play with the macronutrients, the things that you're eating, to try to get more of a body composition change if you're desiring fat loss or what have you. But just instilling that behavior and reminding yourself that you need to eat at those times. That's super
Like,
basic.
and yeah, and I like when people start with a shake every day. I like the power cleanse and the greens. Some people may like whey or the keto or the vegan super shake. The reason I recommend the shake is because we know exactly what's in it. It's going to give
Right.
your body the 90 essential nutrients it needs every single day. And it's very nutrient dense. So you're not going to get a lot of extra calories, fat, sugars, or salts in there. So I like to have people do, I call it the Shake a Day Club. What are your thoughts on doing a shake, especially the first meal of each day?
I think that if you're a busy individual and you know that you're not going to sit down and make a hot breakfast, then yes, absolutely, it is a complete meal. I like to add things, as we talked about before, to the best way, coconut cream powder to add a good fat in there. But again, it's such a nice powder because I can just put water in there and literally shake it up without even having a shaker ball in there because the product is just so pure that it just mixes perfectly in with the water and has a great taste. So again, there's little tips and tricks to add to that to make it a complete, meal so you can just walk out the door. But yeah, for
Yeah, and
people
some
that are
people
going to go, yeah,
Yeah, and some people do the power cleanse because it has some extra food in there or add the greens to it. If you do the whey protein, the coconut cream, chocolate coconut cream, or you do some of the other ones, you can always add some frozen berries to it. I like
right.
unsweet coconut milk. So there's other ways to fortify these to make sure you're getting quote unquote a complete meal. The other thing I like to
Mm-hmm.
do is teach people how to build a meal on their own, right? Because I found as a trainer and talking and working with still a lot of people in more of the functional medicine side is that the most efficient macronutrients are going to be good quality proteins and good essential fatty acids. So if
Yes.
you're going to take that example of that person that maybe maybe they had more time or maybe they have to go to a breakfast meeting with family or for work. If they're going to go and have a breakfast, how would you build that from food instead of the shake?
You mean they're probably going to go have danishes and donuts and stuff? Oh my gosh. So
Well,
isn't that
we hope
terrible?
not.
Like
Yeah.
I mean, this is what, and so being on a military installation, I'm gonna kind of bag on it a little bit. Like, it's in an office setting, there's always that donut tray, Danish tray. I'm not really sure why we still do this, but we just power load the front half of our day with all these terrible sugars. And then we wonder why our workforce is crashed out at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, you know? So, I mean, yeah, without going off on a tangent on that, I think preparing yourself, knowing
So if
that you're
somebody
going to,
does do those, let's talk about what happens in the body, right? Because people may not realize, oh, the donuts would taste good. They're right there, the Danishes. They may be free at the military base or the hotel has a continental breakfast. Let's talk about what happens metabolically that why you don't want to start your day with that. I always say if you're going to have a dessert or a donut or a sweet, have it as part of the after the meal and split it with somebody. So you're
right,
getting a little bit without making it the meal because when it becomes the meal, here's what happens in the body, folks. You break these down very quickly into a simple sugar. Your blood sugar dramatically increases. The body overcompensates in this postprandial effect, right? What happens is hormonal sequence of events. Now you are going to release excess insulin. Why? Insulin's job is to bring the blood sugar and regulate it. So if it's really high, you need more insulin to do this. And then what's going to happen, you go from a high blood sugar, it won't go low. It's going to come down a lot. It still may be high, but the dramatic shift now, how do people feel? Tired,
Right.
irritable, moody,
Right.
and they're craving some kind of stimulant, which is what? Caffeine,
Caffeine.
nicotine,
Yeah.
sugar, right? Energy drinks.
Right.
So people do this all day. And not only that, the worst possible side effect, have you seen in the gym, is you're telling their body to store fat,
Right.
which is the
Right.
last thing we want to do. So if we had options to a healthy meal, maybe we're going to go to First Watch, right? A good restaurant locally. I always tell people you got to get organic eggs as a base because you want the protein and fats. What are your thoughts on that? And how would you put together a healthy breakfast if they didn't have access to a shake or they had to eat a meal with a group, maybe for work or friends or family? How would you build that healthy meal early in the day? What are some of the things you would recommend to eat instead of the Danish?
Right. Well, I like you just said, to expand on that, when you go to a restaurant, you can always ask for things to be cooked without extra oils. I think that most restaurants nowadays are very used to people with dietary restrictions asking for things to be dry fried or not, with extra oils. But, let's face it, it's not bad for breakfast to have, like you said, two high quality eggs, or even if you just have two, I mean, medium standard eggs at the restaurant, fried with a little bit of toast and some hash browns. I mean, is it really going to kill you? It's going to give you the protein and fat to sustain your day. And like you said, you're not going to get this massive insulin spike out of it right out of the gate. And you're also not stalling your metabolism out for the rest of the day, just kind of waiting around to start that feeding window where you just start smashing everything in sight. So,
Yeah,
hey,
I always like when they especially at breakfast, do a veggie omelet, right? Get the veggies, and I tell them no cheese, no meat, and they always say, "What kind of
yeah,
cheese?" No cheese, right?
right,
Just want the veggies in the omelet, and instead of the
right,
hash browns or the toast, you may want to do a side of fruit, right? So you can make these meals really easy. I think it's easier when you go out to eat. I mean, we went out last night. I got grilled chicken, salad, and vegetables. So
perfect. Yeah,
always look at the protein because the protein is going to rebuild your tissue, and the fat and carbs are going to give you energy, right? So
correct.
I think we got a pretty good idea. I like to do a shake at least once a day in the morning and maybe in the afternoon and have that lunch and that dinner. So I like to break it down, maybe not to the competitive level of 6 to 8 meals a day, but usually three or four. And depending on how close it is to get to the beach, I may incorporate more shakes. So, what are some training styles that you recommend for maybe let's start with the older population, right? Older
Yeah,
than you, of course, even older than me, and maybe even older than Joe. So, if
yeah.
somebody's 60 and over, what are some training philosophies you recommend for them? Let's start with cardio. What would you recommend for somebody over 60 to do some cardiovascular activity?
I think first and foremost, you need to understand that at any age that you are, you're not as fragile as you think you are. You just truly are not as fragile as you think you are. You are capable of pushing yourself harder than you think you should, of course, within reason. I know that people have some health problems that prevent them from getting their heart rate up high and things like that. But, I had a 77-year-old client that started with me few weeks ago. Extensive medical history, very quite debilitated. And honest to God, it's miraculous what you see within just a couple weeks of just establishing a routine. Just getting out of the house more, coming to the gym, checking that box, actually physically walking in, having a seat into the bike, warming up for 10 minutes and then, marching up and down on a step or just walking up and down the track at the gym. It doesn't have to be like this groundbreaking, crazy exercise. It's literally just moving your body. The worst thing that we can do is sit. And obviously, as we age, we sit more. And then what I noticed too, we start to become more fearful of the world around us because from all this sitting, we become more debilitated and, we're scared to get up and walk even in our own house, so then suddenly we get on a cane or we get on a walker or some other type of device. And then it just is more and more fear. You kind of have to keep pushing that boundary and keep testing your balance, testing your gait. And it doesn't have to be, like I said, this groundbreaking program. You just need to move. I like to use non-impact, obviously, for my older clients, cycling, aquatic, type aerobics and stuff. But we still want to load the joints at every age. When we load the bones, we cause the signaling to uptake this calcium in our bones. So the worst thing we can do is just start to be really scared to do anything at all. You have to stay moving. You have to keep everything lubricated. So yeah, simple. Come
Thing
in,
as
ride the bike,
simple as walking, right? They can walk
walk.
in the trails, they can walk at home, they can walk on the
Yeah,
treadmill, they can
yeah.
walk at the store. I love walking. I did an hour this morning to start my day in the park. It was
Hmm.
beautiful out. The sun was coming up, took some cool pictures. Then I did my exercise. But I did see a lot of what I consider seniors walking this morning in the park,
Yeah.
right? So I love that. Keep the body moving. And years ago, when I was training people, I had actually a lot of clientele would come to me because they were scared of osteoporosis. And I like the fact that you incorporate that even for people over 60 because they need to have the impact, right? And I know a lot of people would say to me, oh, you don't need to train hard. And, after talking to you a lot in the last year or so, I went back to some a little more heavier training and my body responded again, right? So,
Good.
be careful of falling into these traps that you don't need to do more intensity. You don't need to do weights. You don't need to do walking uphill because your body only knows stimulus, right? So I
Right.
like how even your over 60 crowd, you are incorporating a little intensity. Now, of course, it depends
Absolutely.
on the person, but
Of
you got to
course.
have that continual intensity because not the body doesn't respond, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think in our last episode we talked about my pillars, and that's mobility, stability, and strength. Right? I mean, you have to increase somebody's range of motion and their mobility. You have to ensure that the joints are stable by doing strength training exercises, and then obviously overall strength. That's when you push the intensity a little bit and you start lifting a little bit more, than you normally would. And for my older clientele too, I tell them that I know that you clean your house and I know that, you do yard work and I know that, there's chores and stuff, but we have to do things outside of that comfort level to get the body to respond, like you said. I think they use fancy terminology like, shocking your body or doing something different, but really, the body becomes very accustomed and comfortable with this routine every day. So when you come to the gym, or if you're doing, something that you call that's your exercise, whether it be walking in the trails or whatever, it has to be over and above what you're doing daily.
Yeah, because your body becomes used to the activities of daily living, and the body's always fighting for this homeostasis, right?
It
Which
loves
is really a
comfort.
balanced, comfortable level,
Yeah,
right? So,
yeah,
even if you have a blue collar job, right, where you're doing manual labor, your body's become used to it. You got to
right.
go above and beyond the call of duty. I remember years ago in college, I was doing landscaping. We would still go to the gym at night about 8 o'clock, and it was incredible of how that all that walking all day and then adding in the weight training at night, the body's changed really quickly. So what
Sure.
about somebody that's maybe in that age group that's some physical limitations or injuries? How do you train around that?
Yeah, so we always do. Just put it that way. We always do. If somebody has a shoulder injury, you can still work your lower body and your core. If you had just had a knee replacement, there's nothing that's stopping you from doing seated exercises. The gym is a fantastic place. Again, of course, Powerhouse Gym. We have about every piece of equipment you could possibly dream of. But there's always something that you can do. And I think that that's another big limiter for people, is that as we ebb and flow through life, our health changes. or the dynamics in our life changes, and we use those things as excuses not to do something. Oh no, I was sick for 2 weeks, so I was out of the gym. I couldn't do anything. Well, why can't you go out and walk? Not trying to be nasty about it, but it is the truth. Like, do something. Do something. So that, just don't give yourself don't give yourself an out. Don't give yourself an excuse. Are you there?
You still there? Okay.
Oh,
All
yeah.
right. So I want to talk. I want you to comment a little bit on the importance of hiring a trainer. Like when I got into personal training in the early '90s, that's the 1990s, Phil, not the 1890s. When I was a trainer in the early '90s, I remember my dad said, "Are you moving to California?" I says, "No, why?" He goes, "Well, who's going to hire a trainer in Pittsburgh?" I said, "Don't
Yeah,
worry, Pop. People are interested." He thought it was just for movie stars, and nowadays you can have trainers just about everywhere. And
you do.
I love the fact that you're working in Powerhouse. I remember the Dabish family starting Powerhouse years ago, way before your time, and they were always a really big gym following, especially in the Michigan area, but throughout the world. So I love that you have all the access to all the different equipment and I always recommend to hire a trainer just to show you the equipment and then to
Yeah.
get you started and then to customize the program. So, are you accepting new clients now? And if so, how do people get a hold of you?
Yeah, so you can email me at Coach Billie-Nicole at Gmail, and we can kind of, discuss your goals. In-person training is kind of tough right now. My schedule is pretty full, so I have a little bit of a waiting list for that. But I do online training. I'm super blessed. I honestly, like, I feel like the right clients come to me and I'm the right coach for them. I've just been really lucky in that respect. But that's part of it. When you go to hire somebody, you have to trust them. Because you're going to spend a lot of time with them, and you have to trust that they're going to get you to where you need to be, and you kind of have to be willing to hear their voice when they're not around, telling you, this is the steps we have lined out to get you to your goal. Keep doing that even when nobody's watching. So you have to be willing to let them in and allow them to help you get to where you want to be, because this behavior modification is the hardest part of all of it. So
Absolutely. And I like how you mentioned that it's got to be a good fit, right?
it
Because
does.
when I was a
I'm
trainer in Pittsburgh, there was five of us. There was two females and three males. We worked great as a team. If somebody came to me, I know Toki would be a better trainer or Holly, I would
right,
direct them to them. Some people,
right.
Gary would send to me and Frank. So we had a really close-knit group, and we would recommend people based on, what they were trying to accomplish and making sure they're a good fit. But you always want a trainer that's certified, that's experienced, and that lives apart. I know some of these coaches nowadays say, hey, do as I say, not as I do. And that may be a good fit for you. But for me, I want somebody like Billie-Nicole that actually lives the lifestyle because they can understand a little more some of the challenges I may be facing. Whereas somebody that doesn't, it's easy
Yeah.
to tell you what to do. So if you're not able to accept new clients, of course, I'm sure you can refer people or do some of the online courses that you're doing. So for the seniors, I think we have a good idea of what we do. What about somebody that's a young adult, like my daughter or your daughter? I see her out there doing the wakeboarding and, following her mom's footsteps. But what about somebody maybe is like 20 years of age or younger? What are some of the concepts that you apply to them that maybe, for a senior would be different?
Well, I can tell you, I am so proud of this new um, generation that's coming up, because the gym is packed with them. They may not know what they're doing right now, but the gym is packed with them. It's kind of, since COVID, the gym has become like a cool place to hang out for that age group. So for me, it's very exciting to see, because, when I was 20, we kind of weren't really doing that. We hit the gym in high school and stuff because it was just a part of it's part of the sport. It wasn't cool. So it's really, really neat to see that. I, I think my biggest piece of advice for that age group and where I start with them is just, this is forever. You know, it's very hard for them to establish their mind around this, but I'm like, find the why. You know, what do you want to, who do you want to be when you're 60, 70, and 80? Because you have a very great opportunity at 20 here to get it all right, you know, and have a very, very healthy, long life and a very active life. Um, and so I see a lot of ego lifting and, you know, kids lifting a little too heavy and stuff like that. So hiring somebody gate to help you with your firm, to help you put together programming that makes so you're not in the gym for 2 hours. You need to be in the gym for 2 hours and hold up all the equipment. um,
I love that
but yeah,
advice
you know,
because I think sometimes the younger generation gets a bad reputation, right? And
they
it's
do.
easy to criticize them. However,
Yeah. No.
I do see the younger generation excited to be
Yep.
going to the gym. It's much
Yeah.
more acceptable to go to the gym now. And like my daughter is 15 and she plays sports and stuff. And somebody says, "Oh, I see your daughter works out with you sometimes." I says, "Yeah." They says, "Oh, you pushing her?" I says, "Yeah, but I don't want to push her out the door, right?" So
Right.
it's more
Right.
about establishing good habits, the discipline, the consistency, the frequency of the workouts. I says, and then we can increase the intensity over time. So, is
Yeah.
that what you're recommending more for the younger group? Is let's get some foundations and habits built before we try and do crazy workouts?
Right, right. But yeah, it's give and take, right? So I mean, for those guys, I want to find out where the carrot is dangled at, you know, like what excites them about, you know, physical activity because somebody's pull up is somebody else's nightmare. Like I don't want to do pull-ups. So you kind of find what it is that they enjoy doing. And then from there, it's confidence in the gym, showing them how to use all the equipment, showing them how to, you know, move their body properly, showing them about the appropriate amount of weight to move. And again, not groundbreaking stuff. One thing I really love to focus on with the younger guys is our posture. We're all texting all day long. We're all computing all long. So everything we do in the gym needs to be to combat that, to bring the shoulders back again, to open the chest up so that we can start take really big deep breaths and de-stress. Yeah, sit right, sit up, Jamie.
See me? I'm like,
I know, but we all do it, you know. And so when we're in the gym, we need to exercise those muscles that support that structure, so that all day long your posture is more upright. So when I'm working with younger people, they don't really realize that, but I'm always focused on the backside of their body stronger and keep their spine stable. So that's really important. You know, mostly more important than bench pressing or you know, how much can you squat kind of stuff. You know, how strong is your back?
yeah, I like that because it's something that people don't think of, right? They're in a big rush to get in there. They want to see results right away. And the other
Yeah.
thing I like what you said is, not every movement works for everybody, right?
No.
So
Yeah.
my daughter was doing some, and she goes, "It just doesn't feel right." I says, "Well, let's try the row on the machine because the back's a hard muscle to work." So I found the machine and got the adjustment
Sure.
right. So the rows, she can really feel it in the back muscles. So I like how
Yeah.
you're flexible with people. You want the intensity to be there, but you don't want it to be where they're overtraining or that ego lift. So I always recommend form before speed or strength, right? Because if the form is not right,
100%.
it doesn't matter what we're doing because it could be a negative impact where it could be an
Yeah.
injury or maybe you're training the joints, you're not really lifting to hit the muscles, and there's a fine line there. So I like the concepts of making sure that the exercise is right for that person, and everyone's different. I'm built more
Yeah.
compact, I'm shorter, shorter limbs, so for me, things like squats were much easier because the way my mechanics were, where maybe the bar bench press didn't work as well. I did better with dumbbells. So you have to experiment a little bit too to see what your biomechanics really thrive to and
Sure.
evolve with and are really having the best impact because everyone's different and at the same time, you still need to have that intensity there. So I
Yeah.
like it. The younger generation: posture, frequency, consistency. What
Yeah.
is your motivation of going there, right?
Right.
Some people want to get stronger for a sport. Some want longevity. Some want just something to do, also, right? So it can
Hmm.
be a good hobby that you do, that you just want to make sure that you're getting results rather than a sport specific. So it
Right.
sounds good with the younger generation. We have the older generation. What about all of us, including myself, in that middle group?
In
We're out of
between.
college.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. What do we do? Because again, I feel a lot of people in that group, it's all about weight loss, right? I want to be
Yeah.
lighter. I want to be leaner. So, what are some of the concepts you can incorporate? Because I think what happens, life hits us. God forbid you have kids, right? It makes it even more complicated.
Wow.
So, what are some
Yeah.
things we can do in that, in between group?
Yeah. And you know, especially when you graduate college or high school or whatever, if you were an athlete and then you grow into an adult and you kind of lose that athleticism, or you don't have an identity, any longer, because you're not playing your sport, you're not doing your thing. It can be really, really hard, and it can be really hard to fall back onto a fitness routine that you love, because I mean, you're not going to play soccer like you did when you were in college or when you were a pro. You're not going to play tackle football like you used to. So what can you kind of get into? And I think that it's a frame of mind. It's about being willing to evolve with your fitness as you age, and just keep trying to push the things, see what you like. Try to go cycling, try to go for a run, try to go for a hike. Find the thing that sticks, that excites you, that keeps you moving. And
Yeah,
again, a lot we in this age group, we have a ton of stress, and your fitness routine should not add to that stress level. It should be the thing that you're like, I cannot wait to get off work, because I'm going to put these shoes on and I'm going to head. It's going to just take all the pain away. It should be that. It shouldn't be another thing on the list that you absolutely dread. So finding you enjoy to do is just my biggest piece of advice for that age group. So not extra
One
stress for
one of
you.
my favorite one of my favorite bodybuilders of all time is Lee Haney, right? He used to have the TV show, and I mean, his track record is second to none. A man of faith. He married his childhood sweetheart, a family man from Atlanta and originally from South Carolina. And his famous quote is "Stimulate, don't annihilate." His training
Right.
style was so specific of hitting that muscle, getting the result, and getting out of the gym. But he said the other
Yeah.
part was so important, was a healthy lifestyle. And I finally realized, after years of trying to train like I did when I was 20 and 25, doesn't work at 40, 45, and 50.
Right.
So what
Right.
I've found is you got to evolve as your body changes, your training has to change. And
Yeah.
you motivated me to get back on the river, right? Because you're out there knee boarding and doing the water skiing and the wakeboarding. That's physical. You know,
Yeah.
you go on
Yeah.
water skis for an hour or two, your legs are going to get your back, every muscle group. So don't be so limited on what you do. I heard you mention the boating and the biking and the hiking, and
Yeah.
nowadays you can do yoga and Pilates and CrossFit, and there's so many different ways you can be active. It doesn't
Right.
always have to be in the gym. It doesn't always have to be with weights, right? So
No,
I
it
think you
doesn't.
should be open-minded to what some of the activities are, and I think you should do it to where, hey, I'm going to evolve with my training. So what are some of the
Yeah.
other things you recommend people do if they're not just in the gym?
Well, recover, de-stress. That is huge. That is huge. Try to feed your body right. Try to get as much sleep as you can at night. Turn these devices off. Um, Center yourself, and go to bed and get a good night's rest. A lot of people run on 4 or 5 hours of sleep. I don't know how they do it. I gotta get me a solid like 8 or 9, and if it's a heavy week in the gym, it's gonna be 10. I mean, and it's a sacrifice I need to make. I have to go to bed some nights at 7 o'clock at night because I'm up at 4 in the morning or 5 in the morning. But I you you have to just make these appointments with yourself that are non-negotiable that you're going to do to take care of yourself. And even though you have children, even though you have a busy job, even though you have all these deadlines to hit, you have to make yourself a priority. And in this age group, it's really hard to do because we're constantly thinking about everybody else, and anything else except for ourselves. So make yourself a priority and recover. And if you need a day of rest and if you need extra sleep instead of going to grind or workout out, that's what you need to do. Don't feel guilty about it. It's okay. You're not going to like fall off the soul train completely if you miss one workout or if you miss one day. The next day, just get back on it. And that's the other big piece of advice too. Just never quit. So what
Yeah,
if
I
you had
love this. It's like deja vu because last time you told me to get my rest, right? So
yeah, you
I'm the
gotta
king of
get rest.
cat naps. So I like to
Hey,
take naps, especially on the weekend. I have a little bed out my back deck, so I like to go out there and relax and meditate. And those naps can be fantastic, right? We're
yeah,
probably one of the only countries that doesn't recommend the siesta in the afternoon, right? Most countries, you take a half hour nap, even just to close your eyes or decompress. So there's nothing wrong
yeah,
with that. There's a fine line between, getting your rest and, they say right next to rest, the brother is called bored and lazy, right? So you got to be careful, but make sure you're getting your rest. And it's always okay to take that extra little nap or get that extra sleep. And if you're not feeling 100%, you're not recovered, then you need to recharge. And, even recently, I took a whole week off, actually about 10 days. I did active rest, though. I did the biking and hiking
sure.
and walking, but I just said, what? I need a break. My joints need a break. My body needs
Yeah,
to recover. And I came back mentally and physically a lot stronger. And I
absolutely.
think that's important at any age. And, be open minded to the transition. So I like a lot of things you're talking about, with taking that rest, getting those naps in. What's one activity you recommend that people probably don't do that they could incorporate at any age, especially in the in betweeners? What's one thing that they should be doing or you like that they do that maybe they don't think of?
This is so simple. It's so simple that I'm almost embarrassed to like just say it, but put a yoga mat or a towel or something down on your floor and just lay down and put your feet up on a couch or whatever so that you're just a little elevated and just lay there and take 10 really big deep breaths. The most deep, uncomfortable breaths that you can take. Fill your lungs completely with air and empty them completely with air. You would be amazed at what this does, not only psychologically, but physically for our stress levels and help to center you, ground you, and get you back out there, to fight another day. I mean, we need to take that time. I fought this for years. I've been at this fitness stuff for a minute, and I too like had years where I just pushed so friggin' hard that to pure exhaustion, to adrenal fatigue, to a lot of things that I shouldn't have done. But um, I'm definitely finding out now that less is more. Put the intensity into where you need to put it. If you're training for something, but the rest of the time, really, really focus on that recovery and just bringing everything back down. Because we're just majorly overstimulated these days with everything. So just to
Oh,
find
absolutely.
that,
I
yeah,
love that advice. Kara, who works for us as a yoga teacher, and one of the things I learned from her is focus on the breath when you're stretching, not so much the
for
stretch,
sure.
but the breathing. My daughter had lacrosse practice a couple weeks ago, and I went there, and at the end, the coach took 15 minutes and had them do deep breathing and meditating, which I thought was awesome. And
Yeah,
then, I
yeah,
practiced that, and I was driving the other day, and my daughter says, "Why are you doing all that breathing?" I says, "Because it helps me look within. It takes away a lot of stress." And then the
yeah.
next day, she was so anxious. She said about her game, I says, "How about being excited? And how about doing that deep breathing coach taught you?" Right.
Yes, yes,
And I
yeah,
says, it can get you right back to reality. and take a lot of the perceived external stress that we're dealing with all the time. Well, I could
Absolutely.
talk to you for hours. I can't wait
And
to
we
see you
will.
at our professional training event coming
Yeah.
up in August. So we have a little boat time scheduled for on the African Queen on the river. So we are
Awesome.
pumped up to see you. I love the concepts you're teaching. I love how you break it down for our, the younger generation, the in-betweeners, and then the older population. And the concepts are the same, but we can always fine tune it depending on what level we're at, what are our
Absolutely.
goals at, what are some of our limitations. And I always like how you say, establish a goal, but you need hard work, you need frequency and consistency to accomplish anything. And then you got to make sure that the consistency is there. Because some days, I
Yeah.
don't have as much time, so I still get something in. I always
Right.
recommend at least 30 minutes of walking every day. And then days you have a little more time, you're feeling a little bit better, and you got some opportunity to do a little bit extra, do it. So thanks so much for joining us today. One last parting shot. If people want to get a hold of you, what's the best way to do so?
You can email me at coachbillynicole@gmail.com. And you can find me at Powerhouse Gym in
Okay.
West Bloomfield.
West Bloomfield, Michigan at the Powerhouse
That's
Gym
right.
during the week. And on the weekend, you can find her on, of course, the Great Lakes up in Michigan. And
Yeah.
she'll be coming down to join our team at Nutritional Frontiers professional training event. Be a good opportunity to pick her brain and share some ideas. And one last thing. So your favorite shake, is it chocolate coconut?
No, I'm a vanilla person because I like to do all the
Oh,
like you said, I like to add the berries. I like to add the coconut cream, as I said. But I just am into the vanilla right now. The best way has been my jam for a while. But I also like to add the secret sauce and the power fuel in there as well. So, because I don't do any caffeine or stimulants anymore, so the power fuel has been a really nice addition for me. It gives me a good boost. I definitely feel a better pump in the gym. I feel like my muscles are getting more blood flow, and again, it gives me that boost without being jittery or geared up. So, I like it. It's good stuff.
we love all
Every
the
day.
great philosophies and sharing your training secrets with us. We appreciate all support at the World of Wellness and Nutritional Frontiers. And we look forward to seeing you here in Pittsburgh in the next couple of weeks. So thanks, Billie-Nicole. Have a great weekend. Enjoy that family in the boat and
Oh, of course.
all that fresh air up in Michigan. It's a great time of year to be there,
Yeah.
of course. And the summers are short, so enjoy them while they're here. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Thanks so much.